YouTube, welcome back to Overlord Alex Gaming. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the PvP side of Dune Awakening. By the end of this guide, you'll know exactly how I build my character for endgame PvP, which weapons I use for different situations, how to adapt your loadout depending on the type of fight you're expecting, and the tactics that will give you the best chance of winning both ground and air engagements. Whether you're looking to get into PvP for the first time or you're trying to optimize your current build, this guide will give you a solid foundation to work from. Now, before we jump into the build itself, I do want to acknowledge the current state of PvP. Over the last couple of months, we've seen desync issues, hacking, balance problems, and a handful of other frustrations that have understandably pushed some players away from PvP. That being said, I still firmly believe in Dune Awakening having an excellent foundation for PvP if Funcom continues to improve on the current systems and engage with the community. The combat mechanics, movement, and large-scale engagements have a lot of potential, and even in its current state, I still find PvP to be enjoyable. That's why I think it's worthwhile to cover builds and tactics now, because once these issues are addressed, many of these strategies will still remain relevant in the near future. Before we dive into the build, there's one more thing that's important to understand. Right now, Funcom has made the barrier to entry for competitive PvP incredibly high. To get the most out of both ground combat and air combat, you'll realistically want to have a combat specialization at or near level 100, along with very high sabotage and exploration levels for the specialization trees. That means your progression may not look exactly like mine quite yet, and that's perfectly okay. I'm hopeful that future balance changes reduce the specialization requirements and make PvP more accessible to newer players, but for now, I'm going to be showing you what I consider to be an optimized endgame setup. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the build. Alright guys, we're going to be covering a trooper variant and a more of a melee focused variant of this PvP build. Now keep in mind there's going to be a ton of variations. I'm going to do my best to cover all of those different variants of this build and also the PvP meta, so bear with me here. Now, as far as the weapon loadout I'm going to be using today, let's go over that real quick first. We're going to be using a Regis triple shot that's going to be triple augmented. It's going to have the capacity expander and 2 damage mods on it. We're going to be using a penetrator. It's going to have 2 damage mods on it and a capacity expander as well. We're also going to have a pulse sword. It's going to be triple augmented. We can either put a stamina mod on it or we can have triple augment damage on it to have one-shot capabilities on a slow blade against most opponents. We're also going to have what I like to call my dueling weapon. This is to be used for both lunging strike as well as having a lower reduced stamina cost for this weapon. We put triple augments of stamina reduction costs on it for attacking somebody to reduce it down to 2. This is very helpful for baiting out an opponent in a melee duel. It's very helpful for using lunging strike because the dagger has the fastest animation to use lunging strike. We're also going to have a perforator. We're going to have a damage mod on it. We're going to have the rampage augment on it for the capacity and damage, and we're also going to have faster fire rate on it to get our shots off quicker. I also like to use the Regis disruptor pistol. I have 2 shield popping augments on it, as well as you can see it's doing 699 shield damage plus all of our buffs. We're also putting a heavy caliber or a faster fire rate mod on it. That is a dealer's choice on that one. We also have a double shot ancient way with 2 damage augments on it as well. And then we also over here have some other switches. We have a Dune Watcher for more open world PvP, as well as a pair of dual blades. I have 1 stamina reduction cost augment on it and 2 damage mods on it. I have a scanner. I have a black market las gun for vehicle fights and taking down a vehicle. A lightning gun, even though it got nerfed. I put triple damage augments on it. We also have a double damage augmented blind fury with a Jabal spit dart expander on it. This can be kind of useful in the mid-range as well. It's not as good as a triple shot, but can still be fun to use. We also have a pyrocket. We have the expander on it, as well as a damage mod on it. This thing's pretty good, but it's not the best weapon. It's more to just get a fire dot on your opponent and kind of startle them a little bit. Now, as far as the armor and weapons, guys, let's go through that real quick into 2 variants. All right, so for loadout 1, we're going to be using a full set of heavy armor. It's going to have double dart mitigation, Now, you can have a couple different swaps on this. Instead of bulwark gloves or bulwark chest, you can put on power harness and circuit gauntlets. This is going to give us even more shield resistance against people who are going to be using a disruptor pistol. If you combine this with conservation of energy, it'll take 2 shots to your shield to actually pop it instead of 1. That's something to keep in mind as well. You can also swap on X-Core leggings if you want a little bit less tankiness, but want a little more mobility. So if you don't want to go full-on trooper, that's another option as well. Now, if you want to go more of the rusher playstyle, you're going to do full light armor. This can either be X-Core or pincushion, but it's going to be double dart mitigation as well. It's going to give you a lot of dart mitigation. You can actually survive some shotgun blasts, and with lunging strike, it's going to be even easier to tank it. Now, moving on, let's talk about our skills, abilities, and techniques. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of variations for this build, so I want to cover at least some of the options you can do to allocate your skill points elsewhere, but keep in mind, I usually prefer the playstyle of using hybrid and having a melee weapon and being more close quarters with my opponent. But if you're someone who likes to use range, then obviously there's going to be some variations. So let's go over the first variation of that. So as you can see, I have 3 points in the Shikawire Claw. Now, if you're someone who likes to play more of a supportive role in a group fight, then getting battle hardened to protractor field can be really helpful. It's going to help you land your shot. It's going to help you with a lot of the weapons that we covered over in the previous area. You can also use a Seath or a Hell Fury pistol as well for tractor field. You can use a triple shot. There's a ton of weapons we can use that are going to sync really well with this ability. So also we're going to have for our techniques, center of mass, maxed out scattergun damage, field maintenance, range damage, and a point in heavy guns. We're also going to have Suspensor Dash, Spencer Efficiency, and we're going to move on now to the Mentat tree. We have maxed out pistol damage, maxed out rifle damage, maxed out range damage, and Garment Keeper over here. Now, a couple options that we can do over here besides these, we can also put on headshot damage if you're going to do more of a headshot build with assassin shot if you're playing a supporting role in PvP. But honestly, I think it's a lot easier to just do the center of mass build, so I would just ignore this if you're more leaning towards that. Now, we also have a point into Gravity Mine. This is an essential ability, especially to lock down your opponents. It's great for duels. It's great for groups. It's really good for close quarters. In open world fights, when you're kind of on an island, it can be a little more challenging to land. But if you do, and you manage to get this behind a rock, for example, and your opponent can't shoot it, it's a really good ability to have. So keep this on your bar if you are going to engage in open world fighting. Now, as far as Planetologist goes, we're not really putting a lot into here except for rerouting and overcharge to get our shield up and the shield recharge up as well. I put a point into vehicle repair for dogfights if we're going in the air. And then for Bene Gesserit, we're going to be focusing on getting our damage and our mobility. So we have a point in Weirding Step. We have points in short blade damage. If you're not going to be using a dagger or anything like that as a damaging weapon, you can ignore doing that. Instead, put your points into Bindu Sprint, for example, or another area. You want Manipulate and Stability, blade damage. You want also points in Voice Training, Compel. It's important to have points into Poison Tolerance. There's a lot of weapons that actually do poison damage. You want points into Self-Healing, Prana Bindu Stability, and Vitality. Moving on, let's talk about Swordmaster. So we're going to have points into Blade Damage, Long Blade Damage, Solid Stance. Optionally, you can put points into Thrive on Danger. This is one if you're going to do more of a melee kind of style fight. You can also put points into Confidence. You have points into Crippling Strike, General Conditioning, Optimized Hydration, Knee Charge, and Field Medicine. Now, also, let's keep in mind, guys, that there is going to be some variations for this as well. If you're going to be doing strictly melee duels, it's going to be important to have disciplined breathing. This is going to give us that slight marginally higher bit of stamina regeneration for those long drawn-out melee fights against their opponents if they're duels. So if you're not doing that, though, and you're focused more on the trooper build and you're kind of like running around doing open world, you don't want to put points into this. It's not worth it. If you're doing a hybrid like me, even, it's not really worth it that much to put points into this, except for the dueling part of the game. So just keep that in mind. As I said, Thrive on Danger, great choice as well, optionally. But let's talk more about abilities and techniques and where you use them in each different situation. All right, guys, I'm going to try and consolidate this as much as I can as far as the abilities and go over the different play styles and ones you can use depending on the scenarios that you're in. For scenario 1, let's say you're in a duel, you're doing melee, and you're strictly doing a melee fight. You're going to have a couple options here as far as what you can use during a duel. You can either have Prana Bindu strikes on your bar, you can have Retaliate, you can have Shikawire Claw. All these are going to have low stamina cost abilities that you can use on repeat with short cooldowns. Now, when you're in melee, the goal is you're going to try to gas out your opponent. So you want to find abilities that you can combo combo, try to get as many slow blades off as possible while they're under the effects of Cripple Strike. And once you get your Cripple Strike off, you're basically going to try and knee charge them. You're going to try and Shiga Wire Claw them. You're going to use Retaliate if they try to attack you and keep up the offense. You're going to basically try to gas them out and make them use more stamina than you will by eventually getting the slow blade off. So that's the goal of melee fights if they're duels. It's going to be a little bit different if you're in open world, obviously, or in a testing station fighting people more spontaneously. And when you're in more spontaneous situations, it's important to have more mobility. So having Shiga Wire Claw on your bar is also really essential, along with Cripple Strike for locking down your opponent. Now, if you're also running this and you're trying to run hybrid and you run shotguns or any of the other weapons that we covered, you're going to want to have on Gravity Mine. Gravity Mine is going to give us that really good control if you get them stuck in a hallway, for example, you get them stuck in a lab, or you get them stuck on a cliff if you're even in an open world, and have that to lock down your opponents. So with Cripple Strike, it's going to give you a guaranteed opportunity to get a lot of damage on them. They're not going to be able to use their Lunging Strike to get more damage mitigation, so this is the combo you're going to want to use to do that. Now, you can also use Shiga Wire offensively when they're in the bubble and prevent them from shooting the mine if you have a buddy who's also there with you. So it's a great set of abilities to have in combination for a bunch of different scenarios. So just keep that in mind. But let's move on now to talk about techniques. All right, for our techniques, this is where it's going to get interesting because we're going to have a couple different variations here. The biggest thing that we're going to want to do is if we're outside in the open world, we're going to want to have points into Reckless Lunge. Reckless Lunge is going to give us a ton of damage mitigation, especially against range damage. If you have an opponent who's shooting at you while your shield is down, it's going to make us practically invulnerable with our Pincushion set or our Heavy Trooper set that I went over before of Bulwark. We're going to want Suspensor Dash. Now, optionally, we can put on Prana Bindu stability if we want to even have even more reduction or poise damage against somebody who likes to spam rockets, for example, or the Perforator. That's going to be helpful as well. Center of Mass, I think overall is a great choice to have on your bar. Now, you can swap that out for something like Suspensor Dash here if you want even more survivability and don't care about damage as much. So these are another options, to play around with as well. But otherwise, I typically will run Suspensor Dash, Reckless Lunge, and then I'll usually put on Center of Mass if I'm in a testing station and have to fight someone there, or in a duel that has both ranged and melee weapons available. So these are the techniques, guys, to use in different situations. And like I said, there's going to be other variants as well. If for example, if you're running more of a support build, then having Battle Harden on instead of Center of Mass is going to be helpful as well. But Reckless Lunge is almost a mandatory requirement in today's PvP meta, so just keep that in mind. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you think that I should have done anything different as far as my PvP build or loadout or anything else that I covered in the video, let me know down in the comments below. And if you can, please drop a like and subscribe for the channel. It goes a long way, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.